Hello everyone and welcome to the gray area, and in today's video I'm going to talk about the mysterious disappearance and deaths of Orlando Moore and Portia Ravenel. The night was March 26th. It was the two's last night in the Dominican Republic. Orlando and Portia shared one last drink with their new Canadian friends and headed back upstairs to pack their bags and get in their rental car to make the 100-mile drive to the airport to catch their 2 a.m. flight back to New York City. The only problem is they never made it. After not returning from their trip, their family, and rightfully so, got a little worried and got even more worried when they realized they couldn't get in contact with the two. So they immediately called the U.S. Embassy in the Dominican Republic and filed a police report. They also launched their own search, posting pictures of the two on social media, asking if anyone had any more information on where they might be. 2 weeks went by and there was still no answer for what happened to the two. But the Dominican authorities did come forward with a theory for the couple's disappearance. And their theory was that the couple got in a car accident on the way to the airport and they were both presumed dead. Which is kind of weird. It kind of seems like they just came up with a theory out of thin air. But it does actually get interesting, and there are reasons why they figured that is what happened to the couple. It turns out that an unidentified woman was discovered on March 27th, a day after the two were last seen on the Las Americas Highway near kilometer marker 19. And Las Americas Highway is actually a lengthy stretch of road that runs parallel with the Caribbean Sea. Like I said, fishermen discovered a woman unconscious and severely injured on the side of the road, and she was taken to the local hospital. The woman was put in intensive care, but she wasn't able to be identified because she had no identifying documents on her. So they took her fingerprints, but of course, that takes a little while to get confirmed. The fishermen also discovered that there was a crashed car in the Caribbean Sea, and the police actually tried to send divers to recover the vehicle, but because it was in a very rough area where the waves and the current were just really strong, they weren't able to recover the vehicle as quickly as they would have liked to. A couple of days later, on March 31st, a body washed up on the beach about 13 miles away from where the fishermen discovered the woman and the crashed car. The body that they discovered was actually in really bad shape and severely decomposed because it had been in the water for so long, but they were able to identify a tattoo on the arm of the body, and they later used that tattoo to identify that it was Orlando Moore. And on April 4th, 9 days after the initial crash, the unidentified woman did die in the hospital from her injuries. And unfortunately, that woman did end up being identified as Portia Ravenel. The Dominican authorities did end up ruling the cause of their deaths as a car accident with no foul play involved. And the families, as you can guess, were pretty shocked about the news. They were kept in the dark for most of the investigation and didn't find out what happened until it was too late. Now, I can kind of understand where the Dominican authorities were coming from. They weren't able to identify the woman initially. They had to use fingerprints. That takes a little while. But she ended up dying 9 days later. I feel like there may have been some time to identify her and get her family notified, and maybe they had been able to come down there and at least be with her in her last couple of hours, last couple of days. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and she did end up dying alone. A little later on, the Dominican authorities were able to recover the car. The Dominican authorities determined that the accident was caused due to driving at high speeds, alcohol, and not knowing exactly where they were while they were driving. It should also be noted that the Dominican Republic's roads are ranked 5th worst in vehicular deaths per capita, and that road in particular probably isn't the best road to be driving at night at high speeds, especially when you're not familiar with the roads. The police were actually able later to recover security footage of the two at a toll booth at around 1:40 a.m. and it turns out that the couple were only about 10 to 15 minutes away from the airport when they did get into the accident. And it's really sad to think that they were so close to making it to the airport and getting home. Granted, they probably would have missed their flight just because it was around 1:40 when they were last pictured at the toll booth, and the crash was found about 10 to 15 minutes away from the airport. So they probably would have missed their flight. I don't know about you, but I'd take missing a flight over dying any day. So that's very unfortunate how it actually ended up happening. Now, there are some people who do think that there was some foul play involved. In fact, the two Canadian friends that I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the video, they actually noted that firstly, they were the ones who bought the drinks for the two before they left. as sort of like a going away sort of thing, where they wanted to celebrate the last couple of minutes they had with each other. They actually did a lot of activities together. There's pictures of them hanging out, doing all these things together. So it seemed like they made a very close bond in those 4 days that they were together. The friend did note that Portia was very concerned about making sure there was enough gas in the car to make it straight to the airport, and that their phones were fully charged so they'd be able to use the GPS feature. She also noted that Portia mentioned that the rental car person told them to be very mindful of muggings in the area. Something else that kind of creates a cloud of mystery in this case is the fact that Portia was found on the side of the road outside of the car, and Orlando was in the car, or he wasn't in the car, but he was in the ocean and the car was in the ocean. So you have to kind of wonder how she was able to get out of the car before it crashed into the sea. You would think that all this would be happening pretty quickly. It is kind of strange that she was able to get out of the car and that she was found on the side of the road severely injured. She never came into consciousness, so she wasn't able to speak and tell them who she was, which is why she was unidentified for so long. But it is a little weird how that worked out. My sort of off the wall theory is that maybe the car stopped, maybe they didn't have enough gas to make it all the way there and they were mugged, or it was maybe a robbery gone wrong. It's just the fact that she was found on the side of the road and not in the ocean with the car and with Orlando. That's just really weird to me how that sort of worked out. And I mean, I'm sure there's a reasonable answer for that. And to be completely honest, I believe what the Dominican authorities are saying, that it was a car crash. Dominican roads are ranked 5th in the world for car accidents per capita, which means that they're pretty dangerous roads and people lose their lives a lot driving on these roads. You put that in with the fact, like I mentioned earlier, that it was dark. They were rushing to get back to the airport to make their flight. Nobody wants to miss their flight. They did have some alcohol in their system. It's very reasonable that that Orlando may have just lost control, maybe saw something, maybe tried to swerve and it just lost control and he ended up in the ocean. And maybe for some reason Portia was just able to react quick enough and get out of the car. Maybe the car didn't completely fall into the ocean. Maybe he stopped it for a second. She was able to get out, but he wasn't, and then it fell over. There's a bunch of scenarios, and unfortunately we'll never know because there were no cameras in the area to capture what actually happened. I would rather believe that it was an accident than there was some foul play involved, but you never really know, and you can never really know the answer to that, which makes this case so interesting because it seems it could so easily just be an open and shut case of they didn't know where they were, they crashed, that's the end of it. But there's little things, Portia being worried about the gas, being told about muggings, worried about her phone. I also didn't read if they were able to recover any of their luggage or anything like that in the wreck. I know that the car was very, very badly damaged and almost unrecognizable when they were able to pull it out of the sea, but I don't remember reading anything about them recovering luggage or anything like that. So this very well likely could have been maybe a robbery gone wrong, and maybe the people involved decided to make it look like a car accident instead so that they'd be able to get away with it. That could very easily have happened. I hope that wasn't the case, but that could easily have happened. Unfortunately, we'll never know, and let's remember that 2 people did lose their life in whatever way it did happen, and that there are 2 families out there without people. There's a daughter who's growing up without her father, which the tattoo that they were able to identify on Orlando's arm was actually the name of his daughter. So there's a daughter out there who lost her father, and although we'll never know exactly what happened that night, hopefully those 2 souls, Orlando Moore and Portia Ravenel, are resting peacefully. So thank you for watching this video. I really like doing videos like this, discussing cases and disappearances, murders, and even sort of conspiracies. So I'm planning to do a lot more videos like this on other cases. If you have any case in particular that you would like me to do or just to research on that you think is interesting, leave a comment down below. I'd love to get some ideas for videos because this is really fun and I want to keep doing it. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it informative. This is very well likely my first video on the channel, maybe my second or third video on the channel. Leave a comment down below what you think I could do better. If you have any cases in particular that you want me to look at and maybe do videos on, leave those in the comments. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Thank you for watching The Gray Area, and I'll see you next video. Peace.